Hey, Blake the Eccentric here. So it's my second vlog, and today I've decided to cover the Bilderberg group. So, who are the Bilderbergs and what is this meeting? Well, once you've studied them, they really aren't that difficult to understand. The hard part is trying to simplify what they are for the layperson without looking like a complete kook. Now, I wasn't planning on introducing a magic new formula, but I guess I could call them a conglomerate and a network of some of the world's most wealthy and powerful people. Old world families, royalty, bankers, business moguls, politicians, etc. You know, the movers and shakers of the world. Anyway, every year they get together to have a big secret meeting to discuss their plans for the world. Well, presumably. Unfortunately, every year there happens to be a mainstream media blackout of the event, which is probably why you haven't heard of them. So while the alternative media was actually performing the responsibilities of what the media is actually supposed to do this year, the lamestream news with their seemingly endless resources was desperately trying to avoid the story altogether by either ignoring it or trying to distract us with seemingly endless coverage of a certain congressional wiener. And while it's certainly a good thing to rid the system of another political sociopath, the biggest story of all was left completely unattended. So why the media blackout? Well, the simplest explanation, because it exposes the conspiracy, silly. But the good news is that it doesn't take a lot of research or a vivid imagination to put the bigger picture together anymore. Now, I don't have time to tell you everything about all things Bilderberg, but I will leave you links to get you started in the right direction. However, I highly recommend you start thinking about doing some research soon, as these people don't exactly have your best interests in mind for their future. Yes, their future. In fact, I'm going to use a quote by Alex Jones, which puts their intentions in a nutshell. Quote, "They need to keep the public distracted long enough to get the control grid in place. This is the only way they can continue to stay in wealth and power." End quote. Well said, Alex. And if you want to see a frightening and humorous example, I strongly suggest you check out my Farmville article, which I will also link to. Now, speaking of the control grid, I now want to turn my attention to another fellow activist who not only recently wrote a book about the control grid, but who also deserves a nice big gold star for his activism efforts against Bilderberg this year. I even kind of stole his background idea, although I've added my own little Hollywood section, of course. Anyway, I just wanted to say awesome job to Mark Dice, and I'm going to include his videos at the end of this blog to show people an effective way to fight the system as well. Now, there's also some great footage of him and his ongoing feud with Sean Hannity, which I'm going to expand upon further to show people, for purely educational purposes, of course, on how to deal with real-life gatekeepers and shills. So, to Sean Hannity, hey Sean, at first I intended to blast you for being a shill and a propaganda-spewing slimeball, but after seeing some recent shows of yours, I don't even know what to think anymore. Like, really? Is this what passes for news these days? I mean, I personally find your show, I don't know, intellectually insulting. And where do you find these little panels of experts? I mean, Doug Schoen, Tucker Carlson, really? Like, gee, I'm sure Roger Ailes and Rupert Murdoch are really up late at night sweating over what Doug Schoen might say on the air. Like, hey, did you hear what Tucker Carlson said on Hannity last night? OMG, talk about controversial. Now, Sean, based on principle, I have no idea why people would believe a multi-million-dollar journalist working for a multi-billion-dollar news network, notorious for propaganda too, I might add. But I'm not here to insult your audience. After all, it would be unfair to make fun of people for being unaware of alternative knowledge. So, in fact, the movie Pleasantville comes to mind, as I consider it an effective tool to help people wake up. So, for example, are your listeners stupid? Well, are the people in Pleasantville stupid? Of course not. They're just innocent and naive and simply don't know any better, and they haven't been exposed to alternative sources of knowledge. And it's a shame, because if your audience could only have a chance to hear what you probably sound like in real life. say, a closed-door meeting with Karl Rove at Bohemian Grove? I wonder what people would really think of if they could hear you speak then. And by the way, hi Karl Rove. Hey, how's that whole controlling reality idea working out for you? Is everything still going according to plan? But final point on your pal Hannity. Sean, I'm glad we got to have a chance to have this little communication. Now, even though your show looks completely ridiculous to me, I want to know that, I want you to know that I'm not on a personal vendetta against you. Because, let's face it, the real fun is going to be watching how much more ridiculous your show is going to get in the future. You see, the more absurd our countries and our world's problems become, the more absurd you and your panel of experts are going to look trying to cover it. It's going to be like a downward spiral of absurdity. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the future of your show. I'll be watching. Peace and love, buddy.